of mentoring. I mentioned to you that we are going to be looking at the crime of carjacking. And Zacchaeus was so gracious to share his story with us. So I'm going to just let Zacchaeus tell you a bit about himself, a bit of his background, and then we're going to work with what he shares with us to bring information to you so that it can change your life.
Well, my name is Zacchaeus Smith. I'm from Miami, Florida. You know, I was raised up around the Liberty City area of Miami, Florida, and I have family that's from the Opa-locka area of Miami, Florida. So just as I was raised up, you know, I had kind of a double childhood. I stayed with my mom from the beginning of my life. Then as I progressed in life, I moved on with my mom, which is my second mom. You know, she's my maternal aunt. You know, I've been with her for a couple of years, and then as I left her, my grandma died of pancreas cancer. So, I mean, from that stage, I was about 13, and I began to fall into the trap of what a lot of black young men fall into, and I made a few mistakes, got incarcerated, you know. And now that I've been out, you know, I just see a new way of thinking, you know, new things to do with myself, and from the help of Mr. Johnie, I know that I can accomplish anything.
You see, and we're going to get a little bit more into that because he's really condensed the story, but you know, there's some really interesting elements of his life. He mentioned that he was with his mother at times, and he had kind of a double life.
Yeah.
But you moved quite a bit. Your life was a bit unstable with your mother.
My mother, she is bisexual, you know. So from me seeing that at a young age, you know, I saw a lot of stuff, you know, at that age, and it kind of affected me in a way where I didn't know how to handle it, you know. At that young age, I really didn't know what to do seeing that. But I had a sister by the name of Chrysalis Smith, now Sweden because she's married, and my sisters helped me she was my mother, you know, in times where I was hurt, in times where I couldn't even, you know, feed myself. She was there for me, and I mean, like I said, I saw a lot at that age, and it affected me in detrimental ways.
Okay, so Zacchaeus is sharing with us. What I want you to know, if it says that you were with your grandmother by the age of 13, so all of that you were experiencing was happening before you were even 13. How long were you with your grandmother before she passed away?
I was in Belgrade, Florida. That's where I was staying with my mom at, in Belgrade, Florida. And there, I stayed with my mom from about the age of 1 to about 6. At the age of 6, I moved with my grandmother, and I moved with my aunt.
Okay, so from the age of 6 to 13, you were with your grandmother.
Yes.
And then she passed away of pancreatic cancer. Okay.
I was about 13, and after that happened, it kind of changed my life because I always looked at my grandma as a savior, you know, someone that came to take me away from what I was going through. So I was also there with my aunt, you know, so they were like two mothers taking care of a child, you know. So when she passed away, I moved back with my mom. And when I moved back with my mom, you know, it was really, I could do anything I wanted. You know, it was like a liberty where I can go outside. I don't have to worry about being in at a time, and coming from my grandmother's house, I had to always be home at a certain time. So I was just disobeying the rules.
Now you see how important it is. It took 7 years being with the grandmother. There was order in the house is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But what I'm also hearing is that there were two mothers taking care of a son.
Right. Yeah.
Now, how can that work? We need to address this issue. First of all, there were single parents, and even if you have two women taking care of a male child, you still really only have a single parent because the father figure is missing. Johnie, tell us about this, the impact of the single parent issue on families.
The impact of a single parent is a really big issue in our country, in our state. 1 out of every 6 children are from a single parent home, and they spend at least no less than 2 hours out of a week with a father or male role figure.
How much time did you say?
Less than 2 hours.
Less than 2 hours in any given week.
In any given week with a male figure or a father in the household. This is detrimental because what it does is it offers a lack of balance in the house. Especially when it comes to our young men. Our young men are crying out more and more every day because they want a male figure. Not just a male figure, but a positive male figure.
Positive role model.
To come in and set up structures and boundaries in their lives. They're begging for this. And that's why they go into things such as gangs, because gangs offer boundaries and they offer structure.
And validate.
Whether it's negative or whether it's a negative structure or balance, it's still balance and structure nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And it's still a brotherhood that they're aiming for. That's not in the household, so they find it wherever they can, attached to it.
Now, but what about male-headed? We're talking about single-headed, single families headed by females. But what about single families headed by male?
Single families headed by male is the same thing when it comes to, if you're talking about the female persuasion. It could be that way with that missing link of a mother in the house. We have to remember one thing is, although we can do those functions, a man can do those functions as a woman for the daughter and a mother for the son, it is not the same. Yeah. It is something totally different there. For example, coming from a single parent, single mom for a son, simple thing is tying a tie. Or a simple thing is knowing how to open a door for a lady when you take her out. Or a simple thing as far as yes ma'am, yes sir. Some of those things are out the window. Some of those things that they don't do. Certain things as far as when do you shave? When do you not shave? Or when do you have when you begin to turn that cycle, as a young man does, and he has dreams.
Come on, we can talk plain.
We have dreams. He has his wet dreams.
Right.
And those things. How do you handle those things? Women, it's hard for women to talk to sons about that. On the other hand, when it comes to a male figure in the house with a female, how do you address certain issues? There are certain times when I raised my daughter that there was a certain period of time that she could no longer sit on my lap. It was uncomfortable.
Right.
How do you do that? When she changes, when she needs to go and get a bra size, who does that? If you don't have an aunt or a sister or someone female to do that, then it's kind of hard for a single father to do. So we're looking at this dynamic that we have here that is really, really killing us. And if we go back in time, we'll notice that this is kind of, for me, is a systematic type thing that was set up a long time ago. When you talk about the welfare program, and how the welfare program told us that, you know what, let's get those, you can have as many babies as you want. We're going to help you take care of your baby. You get paid for the babies. But guess what? The husband can't be there. So therefore, the husband is out of the household, and that's how this is all started.
Right, they sort of arranged it so that there was no father figure, so that they could get the money, work the system, and not be not be penalized for having a wholesome family.
Absolutely.
And so that they could benefit from the welfare.
Here's the question. The question then becomes, what is the solution for that? As to having that household filled properly, even with the male figure. How does that happen? When do we start having the positive images for our young men and for our young ladies? Even if there are some parents in the house who are not positive role models.
Absolutely, because I always say that no book came with the children. There was no parenting 101, and even if Jack came, the book that works for Jack may not necessarily work for Jane. Right. You see what I'm saying? And definitely the book for the male doesn't necessarily work for the female. And when we try to put a blanket type of management and rearing of children, and figure that because we have a child, we have a son, we know how to raise a daughter. And so we have to be constantly informing ourselves by the experiences of others, by research, more so than we want to do less experimenting than we would want to do research and learn from the experiences of others. And so these are the things that we want you to hear, that you cannot do this thing alone. The reason why there is information, the reason why there is statistics, the reason why there are polls that are taken is so that we can be helped as parents to rear our children. The acceptance of just this, well, you're here today and not tomorrow, and I introduce you to Uncle today, and I introduce you to Uncle John, and then next week it's Jack and it's Stephen. Just does not work in terms of stability. We hear Zacchaeus say that there was a sense of stability when he was with his grandmother and his aunt. Better two mothers than no mothering and no parenting at all. So obviously something worked, because that's the unfortunate thing for Zacchaeus, that the age of 13 is a very difficult time in terms of the development of a child. You know, that adolescence, and all the issues that come with it, and all the uncertainties, where you begin to question everything, who you are, what you believe. You're not quite sure whether you believe what you used to believe. Your thoughts are just running wild and playing havoc with you. And the stability that he had in his life, his grandmother, well, one of the pillars dies. And I know that the Bible says that we ought not to lean on the arm of flesh, because the arm of flesh can fail. But the point is that we are put with people in this life to help us to succeed at each stage of our development. And unfortunately, as Zach's grandmother died, and he had to now go back home to his mother, where there was no order, no structure. He was free to do what he wanted, and definitely at the wrong age. At that age was the wrong age to be making your own decisions, because there is so much uncertainty. Parents, I know that you may think that your children are developed. I know that you may think that they are mature for their age, and you're teaching them to do all sorts of physical chores, but the thing that needs to be transformed is their minds. And I know that is something that, in terms of the holistic approach to dealing with the development of the individual, it's the mind, it's the body, it's the spirit. And we are looking at this thing, so not just holistically looking at the individual, but also looking at it holistically from the perspective of the family and the child. We want to help you, we want to help you to raise your children, and we want to help the youngsters to make the right decision. So you were running wild, doing as you wanted to do, and what happened?
Well, I know, I just remember, and when I was in 9th grade, I used to go to school at HML High in Miami Lakes, and from there I always took more of an interest to finding out that fading man in my life, like, Brother Douglas said. And I start to question, who am I? What I want to do. And I seen all the pressure, and I tried to weigh things out, and I always tried to find a definition of myself, And doing the things I started doing, picking up marijuana, smoking marijuana, just to get the stress off me. And a lot of times I put pressure on me that was supposed to be put on my mom, like, for instance, I want clothes, shoes, or things like that to maintain me, so that when I go out to school, my image is, me. And when I didn't have that, it'll put me in a mood, a state of mind where I was depressed, and I wanted to go out and do other things like sell drugs or rob people. So
you see, here it is coming again, that the anxiety that's created and the state of depression that comes because when a child doesn't feel as if they fit in, and taking on the responsibilities that a mother and the father should take on